I would just say, like, what is some advice that you have for like current athletes and athletes like transitioning out of being an athlete into like the real world, especially like for Jervae and I, because
Mm-hmm.
like we recently, just past couple years, just got out of college and now we're just trying to figure the real world out. And both, I mean, you and Thal, you guys have been here for a while. So like, what are some words of wisdom?
So I guess first is understanding your competitive advantage as an athlete. So, as an athlete, you have experienced things that a lot of the general public haven't within your own little game. Let's take, basketball, for instance. In one season, one game, you're going to experience some of the highs and lows and things that go into a lifetime of learning that you are learning in one season. Um, one training for a race, there's a journey there. You have a good training day, one that wasn't so great. You run a couple meets that, you PR'd one meet and then, you might have got injured the next. And, it's really, metaphors of life that you're experiencing. And so trying to figure out how to piece that into like the work environment. Take that same competitiveness that you have, that same drive, that those habits that you developed. So instead of going to the track and um, you know running sprints, every day or whatever your schedule was, what's the transition to, whatever you're passionate about. If you want to learn about video production, then am I going to dedicate an hour a day to learn about video production? Because you guys were, Division I college athletes, so you were kind of, the top of what you were doing. At the same time, you had kids that weren't athletes that were as good as you are in track and basketball. They were that good at working with computers. And so taking that competitive mindset, how are you ready to compete with that person? You got to start training, right? And so converting that physical training into, how is this going to help me, compete at this level? And again, you guys have already experienced what it takes to get there. And now, a lot easier said than done. That's kind of the cheat code on kind of figuring out how to do all of that. But that would be my advice, is just one, to kind of realize you already have a competitive advantage for what you've went through as an athlete. Now, the work is not done. The work is just starting. Now it's like those habits that I've developed, now I need to figure out how to develop that into, what my career is going to be. And the other thing is, you always hear about people say, have a plan B. I like to look at it as just expand your plan A. I think shoot for the stars. You want to be the best at something, do that. And at the same time, bring along, what your career plan as well. We all know athletics is a temporary part of our life, regardless of how good you are. There are very, very, very few, regardless of how far they go in the professional ranks, that are going to just sit down and do nothing after their sport is over. Okay? So planning what you're passionate about, and if you don't know, okay, but you're taking steps to figure out what that passion is as you are training for, to trying to be the best, whatever your sport is. And so to me, that's all part of the same plan. It's not like, well, I'm going to do this, and if this doesn't work out, then I'm going to do that. No, man, like that's all. Now, yeah, you might dedicate more time to this right now, but this is always here, whatever this is. And so, realizing that and expanding on what that is. Because it is going to be over, and and it doesn't mean you have to completely put it away, but it's something that you're always going to have with you. And if I can go back and tell my younger self that sports is like, yeah, it's everything right now, but let's still explore this stuff.
Box, really.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, keep the box, just expand it a little bit and put some of that other stuff in it.
Speaking of expansion, I think almost probably every athlete can attest to this fact, but I think the problem with a lot of young athletes right now is that they only see sports.
In
So
that
it's
box.
like, how do we get out of that box? How do we figure out other things that we like to do? You know, because like for so much of our lives, it's like I only like basketball, I only like track, I'm just dedicating everything to this. So you never really know what else you like or what else you're into.
Yeah.
And then when you get to college, it's like you study this, but it's like, yeah, I liked it kind of, but I still don't know what I want to do. So how do you find the other?
I think right there is progress. I was one that struggled with knowing what I wanted to do, and I started eliminating things. And through that elimination process, you might find that passion. I think that's one thing. Like, so don't view it as, well, I tried this and I didn't like it, I don't know what I wanted to do. That's a step forward. You eliminated something that you're no longer going to waste time on. You know, story about me, I loved animals, and I studied animal science and zoology in college. I worked for a baseball team. Right. Yeah, Thal tell you, like, I had a zoo.
It kind of seems like for everyone that's in the workforce or the professional field that things sort of just fall
into place.
Or into their lives. You know?
Yes and no. Yeah, I be careful with that, because at the same time, and especially people that tend to be more athletic minded, like, you got to be a go-getter.
Got to be proactive.
Yeah. So now, was I going out and trying to work for a baseball team? No. But I was out there getting it.
You're trying to get something.
Right. And moving
that
forward, and part of that,
right,
exactly. And that's something we understand, the go get it. But I think we struggle on applying that outside of sports, to your point.
Like, what are we
People don't know how to.
Right. Yeah. And, you know, one thing I struggled with is, you know, I was the one, like, when I'm a freshman, I want to start. I want to be the man right now. And so that, you know, you get used to that kind of stuff in sports, and how I'm going to do it. Oh, I'm going to go bust I'm going to do this. I'm going to compete. I'm going to beat this person. And that happens. And then you get into the workforce and you're like, all right, I want to be the president. Let's go. And then you're like, oh, it doesn't work like that. And you know what? Thank God it doesn't. Let me tell you that, because if it did, you would probably enter a lot of areas that you're not prepared for.